Have you ever wondered what it truly means to live a life of peace and wisdom? What if the key to overcoming suffering is already within you? Today, we're going to explore a journey that has inspired millions over 2,500 years. The life and teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, better known as the Buddha. Hello and welcome back to Son.Mindfulness. In this video, we will dive deep into the Buddha's journey from prince to teacher, and how his wisdom continues to offer us a way to live a life filled with peace, compassion, and freedom from suffering. In today's world, many of us are overwhelmed with stress, anxiety, and uncertainty. We often find ourselves asking, how can we find inner peace in the chaos of life? The Buddha's teachings offer a clear solution, showing us that true peace isn't about escaping the world, but understanding it deeply and living mindfully within it. Son.Mindfulness is a channel dedicated to bringing you the timeless wisdom of Buddhism in a way that is easy to understand and apply to your daily life. Whether you're new to Buddhism or have been practicing for years, our mission is to guide you on a path to greater inner peace and spiritual growth. So why should you stay with us until the end of this video? Because the Buddha's story is not just one of enlightenment, but of real-life transformation. It's about how he overcame suffering and how we can too. In this video, we'll reveal how you can start applying his practical teachings to your life and begin walking the path of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. Join us as we dive into the Buddha's life and uncover timeless teachings that can help you find peace and live with purpose. Stay tuned, and let's discover together how the Buddha's wisdom can transform your life, just as it has transformed millions of others. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Son.Mindfulness so you don't miss out on our upcoming videos. By subscribing, you join a community of seekers all working toward a more mindful, peaceful, and balanced life. Now, let's begin our journey into the life of the Buddha. Stay with us as we explore his path to awakening and how his teachings can help us overcome life's challenges. Part 1. The birth of the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. The path to enlightenment begins with the courage to see beyond what we know. The story of Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha, begins in a royal palace in the kingdom of the Shakya clan. Born to King Suddhodana and Queen Maya, Siddhartha's birth was marked by portents of greatness. It was foretold that he would either become a great king or a great spiritual teacher. But this destiny, as we will soon see, was not to be decided by his birth, but by his own spiritual journey. Siddhartha was born in the Lumbini garden, where his mother, Queen Maya, gave birth to him standing up, holding onto a tree. According to legend, the moment he was born, he took 7 steps, and with each step, lotus flowers bloomed beneath his feet. This was seen as a sign that Siddhartha would be someone who would change the world. As a young prince, Siddhartha was protected and kept within the walls of the palace, far from the suffering and pain of the world outside. His father, King Suddhodana, wanted to shield him from the harsh realities of life, believing that if Siddhartha never saw sickness, old age, or death, he would be content and take the throne as a great king. Siddhartha grew up in luxury, surrounded by beauty, but something inside him was missing. He felt a deep sense of dissatisfaction, a longing for something more than the material comforts that life could offer. One day, Siddhartha ventured beyond the palace gates, and for the first time, he saw the suffering of the world. He saw an old man, a sick man, and a dead body, and for the first time, he realized that suffering was inevitable. This realization shattered his worldview and set him on a path to find answers to life's greatest questions. Why do we suffer? Is there a way to end suffering? What is the purpose of life? This moment would forever change Siddhartha. He could no longer live in luxury, surrounded by illusion, knowing that suffering was the fate of all beings. It was at this moment that he made the bold decision to leave his family, his palace, and everything he knew behind. He left in search of the truth, to understand the nature of suffering, and to find a way to help others break free from it. Having witnessed the suffering of the world, Siddhartha's heart was filled with a deep desire to seek truth. No longer content with the comforts of the palace, he left behind everything he knew. With this decision, his journey of renunciation began, one that would lead him to the path of enlightenment. In the next part of his journey, we will explore how Siddhartha sought inner peace through intense meditation and what he discovered about the nature of suffering. Let's dive deeper into the journey of renunciation and meditation, and how these experiences shaped his path toward liberation. Part 2: Siddhartha's Journey of Renunciation and Meditation. To find the truth, one must be willing to leave behind everything they know and embrace the unknown. After leaving his family and the comforts of royal life, Siddhartha Gautama set out on a journey of renunciation. He understood that material wealth and sensory pleasures could never bring him the peace and enlightenment he sought. So he renounced everything: his luxurious clothes, his wealth, and even his family. Siddhartha's decision was not taken lightly. He knew that this was the only way to understand the true nature of life and suffering. His heart and mind were restless, constantly seeking answers to the fundamental questions about suffering, impermanence, and life's purpose. His first step was to seek out the great spiritual teachers of the time. He spent several years under the guidance of renowned masters, learning their meditation practices and philosophies. He practiced austerities, fasting for long periods, and engaging in extreme forms of self-discipline. But despite his dedication, Siddhartha still couldn't find the answers he was seeking. He realized that these extreme practices did not lead to true freedom. His body grew weak, but his mind remained restless. At this moment, he understood that the path to enlightenment was not in extremes, but in finding a balance between self-discipline and mindfulness. This realization led him to what would become his great breakthrough, the middle way. Siddhartha then sat under the famous Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, pledging not to leave until he found the truth. For 7 days and nights, he meditated with unwavering resolve. During this time, he was confronted by powerful temptations and distractions, doubts, fears, and even the illusions of Mara, the demon of delusion. But Siddhartha was not swayed. His mind was clear, and his focus remained steady. He realized that the key to enlightenment was not in avoiding the world, but in fully understanding the nature of suffering and the impermanence of life. His breakthrough came when he attained awakening and understood the Four Noble Truths. 1. Life is suffering, dukkha. 2. Suffering is by craving, tanha. 3. Suffering can be ended by overcoming craving. 4. The way to end suffering is through the Noble Eightfold Path. At this moment, Siddhartha Gautama achieved enlightenment and became the Buddha, the awakened one. He realized that the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara, could be overcome by understanding the true nature of reality and following the path of mindfulness, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. Siddhartha's enlightenment was not just for himself, it was for the benefit of all beings. He understood that everyone, regardless of their background or status, could follow the same path to freedom from suffering. The Buddha's teachings would later form the foundation of Buddhist philosophy, offering a way of life for anyone seeking inner peace, wisdom, and compassion. With this realization, Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha. He had found the answers to the questions that had once tormented him. Now he was ready to share these teachings with the world. Part 3. The Buddha's First Teachings, the Four Noble Truths, and the Path to Liberation. To find true peace, one must understand the nature of suffering and the path to freedom. After attaining enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, The Buddha was now ready to share the profound truths he had discovered. His first teaching would mark the beginning of his journey as a spiritual teacher, and it would lay the foundation for Buddhist philosophy. He knew that the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path were not just theoretical ideas. They were practical steps that anyone could follow to overcome suffering and achieve lasting peace. The Buddha's first sermon, often referred to as the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, was delivered at Sarnath to 5 ascetics who had once been his companions. These ascetics had tried extreme practices to attain enlightenment, but they too had failed to find lasting peace. The Buddha, in his wisdom, understood that extremes in any form, whether of indulgence or asceticism, would not lead to freedom from suffering. Instead, he taught the middle way, the path of moderation between extremes. The Four Noble Truths. The Buddha began by explaining the Four Noble Truths, the core teachings that form the foundation of his Dhamma teaching. 1. The truth of suffering, dukkha. Suffering is an inherent part of life. It exists in many forms: physical pain, emotional distress, unfulfilled desires, and the simple fact that nothing is permanent. Even in moments of joy, there is an underlying awareness that it will not last forever. The Buddha's first truth is not meant to make us pessimistic, but to help us see that suffering is a universal experience. The truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya. Suffering arises due to craving, tanha, and attachment. The desire for things to be different than they are, the longing for pleasure, and attachment to material possessions all lead to suffering. The Buddha teaches that it is not suffering itself that causes pain, but our attachment and clinging to things that are impermanent. 3. The truth of the end of suffering, nirodha. It is possible to end suffering. The Buddha assured his followers that freedom from suffering is attainable, but it requires letting go of attachments and cravings. By understanding the impermanent nature of life, we can overcome our attachments and find peace. 4. The truth of the path to the end of suffering, magga. The path to the cessation of suffering is called the Noble Eightfold Path. This path is a practical guide to living a life of mindfulness, ethics, and wisdom, which leads to spiritual liberation. The Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha's second major teaching was the Noble Eightfold Path, which provides a clear path to freedom from suffering. The Eightfold Path consists of 1. Right view, understanding the nature of reality, particularly the Four Noble Truths. 2. Right intention, developing a mindset of compassion, kindness, and renunciation of harmful desires. 3. Right speech, speaking truthfully and kindly, avoiding lies, gossip, and hurtful words. 4. Right action, acting ethically by avoiding harm to others and living in harmony with all beings. 5. Right livelihood, earning a living in a way that does not cause harm to others, but rather contributes to the well-being of society. 6. Right effort, striving to cultivate positive mental states, overcoming negative thoughts, and practicing mindfulness. 7. Right mindfulness, being fully aware of the present moment, understanding the impermanence of all things, and observing thoughts and emotions without attachment. 8. Right concentration, developing deep meditation, samadhi, to cultivate inner peace and mental clarity. The path to liberation. The Buddha taught that spiritual liberation requires more than just intellectual understanding. It requires a lifetime of practice, including ethical conduct, meditation, and developing wisdom. Through the Eightfold Path, one can overcome suffering and achieve nirvana, the state of ultimate peace and freedom. In the next part of our journey, Part 4, the Buddha's first disciples, the formation of the Sangha, we will explore how the Buddha's teachings spread to his first disciples, and how the community of followers, the Sangha, began to take shape. Let's continue to discover how the Buddha built a community based on compassion, wisdom, and inner peace. Part 4. The Buddha's first disciples. The formation of the Sangha. To walk the path alone is difficult. but together we can support each other toward enlightenment. After the Buddha's enlightenment, his first task was to share his teachings with others. He did not want to keep his newfound wisdom to himself, so he set out to find people who were ready to receive his teachings and follow the path to liberation. The Buddha's first disciples were the 5 ascetics who had once practiced extreme austerities with him. They had been his companions during his years of searching for answers, but when Siddhartha chose the middle way over asceticism, they had left him, thinking he had given up on the path to enlightenment. However, when they heard that Siddhartha had attained awakening, they were curious to learn what had changed him. In the deer park at Sarnath, the Buddha met his first disciples and delivered his first sermon, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, where he laid out the 4 Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. His message was clear. Suffering is part of life, but it can be overcome by following the path of wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The 5 ascetics, having listened to the Buddha, realized the truth of his words. They understood that Siddhartha had indeed found the way out of suffering, and they decided to follow him. This moment marked the birth of the Sangha, the community of Buddhist monks and nuns. The Buddha's teachings began to spread, and more people came to hear him speak. As the community of followers grew, the Buddha's teachings started to take root in society, offering a new path for people seeking freedom from suffering. The Buddha did not create a religion. He created a community of practice, a Sangha, where each individual could come together, support each other, and follow the path to enlightenment. It was a community based on compassion, respect, and mutual support. The formation of the Sangha was a revolutionary act in itself. At the time, spiritual communities were often reserved for men, but the Buddha opened the door for everyone, men and women alike, to join the path of awakening. He taught that enlightenment is for all beings, regardless of their gender, social class, or background. Through the formation of the Sangha, the Buddha created a new society where all beings could walk the path to liberation together. As the Sangha grew, it became a beacon of hope for those seeking a new way of life. People from all walks of life, from kings to beggars, were drawn to the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha welcomed all, offering them the tools they needed to transform their lives and overcome suffering. The Buddha's first disciples were not just followers, they were the first teachers of the Dharma. They helped spread the teachings of the Buddha far and wide, passing on the wisdom of the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path to future generations. Through the Sangha, the Buddha created a community of awakened beings, each supporting each other on the path to nirvana. This community would go on to grow and spread across India and eventually the world, inspiring countless people to follow the path of wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness. In the next part, Part 5, the Buddha's legacy, spreading the Dharma across the world, we will explore how the Buddha's teachings continued to spread beyond the Sangha, shaping societies and providing a way of life for millions of people worldwide. Part 5. The Buddha's legacy, spreading the Dharma across the world. The true legacy of a teacher is not in their words, but in the lives they transform. After the Buddha's awakening, his mission was clear: to share his wisdom with the world. He had discovered the path to ending suffering, and he knew that this knowledge could transform the lives of all beings. The Buddha did not want to keep his wisdom to himself. He wanted to spread it to every corner of the world, for all beings to have the opportunity to awaken. The Buddha spent the remaining years of his life teaching, traveling from town to town, speaking to all who were ready to hear the Dharma. He traveled with his Sangha, gathering new followers along the way. He did not keep his teachings to a select few. His message was universal and open to everyone, regardless of caste, gender, or social status. As the Buddha traveled, he began to establish monastic communities across India. These communities became places where people could come to study the teachings of the Buddha, meditate, and practice the Noble Eightfold Path. They became sanctuaries of peace and wisdom, offering an alternative to the materialistic world that often led to suffering. The Buddha did not just teach individuals to meditate or follow a set of rules. He taught them to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and understanding. He emphasized that enlightenment was not an individual pursuit, it was a collective one. By practicing together in community, individuals could support each other and walk the path of liberation more effectively. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Buddha's teachings was his ability to adapt his message to the needs of those who sought it. He did not give the same teachings to everyone. Instead, he tailored his teachings to the individual's level of understanding and spiritual maturity. For some, he spoke in simple terms, while for others, he used more complex philosophical ideas. His ability to meet people where they were made, his teachings accessible to all. Whether rich or poor, educated or uneducated, high-born or low-born, the Buddha's message reached people from all walks of life. In addition to his teachings, the Buddha also established a strong ethical code for his followers to live by. The 5 precepts for lay people and the Vinaya, rules of monastic discipline, were designed to help individuals live lives of integrity, compassion, and non-harm. By following these principles, individuals could create the foundation for a life of spiritual growth and peace. The Buddha's message was one of liberation. He taught that all beings have the potential to reach nirvana, the state of ultimate peace and freedom from suffering. His teachings showed that this was not a distant goal, but something that could be attained in this life through dedicated practice, mindfulness, and wisdom. As the Buddha's teachings spread throughout India, his influence grew. His disciples traveled to distant lands, carrying the Dharma with them. By the time of the Buddha's passing, his teachings had already taken root in many parts of India, and the Sangha was growing rapidly. The Buddha's final days. In his final years, the Buddha's health began to decline. Knowing that his time was limited, he gathered his disciples and delivered his final teachings, known as the Parinirvana Sutta. In these teachings, the Buddha reminded his followers that the path to enlightenment was not dependent on the Buddha himself, but on each individual's commitment to practice. He encouraged them to take refuge in the Dharma, to live according to his teachings, and to continue their spiritual practice after his passing. The Buddha passed away at the age of 80 in the town of Kusinara. His death marked the end of his physical presence in the world, but his teachings lived on. After his death, the Sangha continued to spread his teachings far and wide, eventually reaching other countries and becoming one of the world's largest and most influential religions. The Buddha's legacy is not just in his teachings, but in the lives he transformed. Through his wisdom, compassion, and guidance, he showed that true freedom from suffering is possible for all beings, and that peace is within reach. In the next part, Part 6, The Spread of Buddhism Beyond India, we will explore how the Buddha's teachings spread beyond India and continue to inspire millions around the world today. Let's continue the journey of the Buddha's influence across continents and generations. Part 6. The Spread of Buddhism Beyond India. The true power of a teaching is not in its origins, but in its ability to transform lives around the world. After the Buddha's passing, his teachings did not die with him. Instead, they continued to spread far and wide, carried by his disciples, who were deeply committed to sharing the Dharma and bringing the path of liberation to others. The Sangha played a central role in spreading Buddhism. In the centuries following the Buddha's death, the monastic community continued to grow, and the teachings of the Buddha were preserved and transmitted through texts and oral traditions. The first Buddhist councils were held to preserve the Buddha's teachings and ensure they would be faithfully passed down to future generations. The missionaries, spreading the Dharma Buddhism did not spread only through monks and nuns. It spread through missionaries and lay practitioners who traveled across the world to share the Buddha's teachings. One of the most significant events in the spread of Buddhism occurred under the reign of Emperor Ashoka of the Maurya Empire in India. After embracing Buddhism himself, Ashoka became one of its greatest patrons. He sent out missionaries to various countries, including Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, and Central Asia, to spread the teachings of the Buddha. Ashoka's support of Buddhism led to the establishment of Buddhist monasteries, stupas, and pillars with inscriptions that carried the message of the Buddha to distant lands. Buddhism in Sri Lanka. One of the earliest successes in spreading Buddhism was in Sri Lanka, where the Buddhist teachings were first introduced by Mahinda, a missionary sent by Emperor Ashoka. Mahinda's mission was instrumental in establishing Buddhism as the dominant religion in Sri Lanka. He converted the king of Sri Lanka, Devanampiya Tissa, and many of his subjects to Buddhism, creating a strong foundation for Buddhism in the region. Buddhism in Southeast Asia and beyond. From Sri Lanka, Buddhism spread further into Southeast Asia, reaching countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Myanmar. In each of these countries, Buddhism took root and grew, influenced by the local cultures and traditions, but always maintaining the core teachings of the Buddha. In China, Buddhism began to spread during the Han Dynasty, around the 1st century CE. Over time, Chinese Buddhism evolved, incorporating elements of Chinese philosophy, and it became a dominant force in shaping the spiritual and cultural landscape of China. Buddhism in Tibet. The spread of Buddhism also reached Tibet, where it became deeply integrated with Tibetan culture. In the 7th century, King Somtsen Gampo of Tibet played a crucial role in bringing Buddhism to the region. Under his reign, Buddhism was established as the state religion of Tibet, and many Tibetan Buddhist practices were developed, leading to the rich tradition of Tibetan Buddhism we know today. Buddhism in the West. In the modern era, Buddhism has spread beyond Asia to the West, where it has found a growing number of practitioners. In the 20th century, with the rise of the counterculture movement, Buddhism gained popularity in the United States and Europe. Today, Buddhist temples and centers can be found throughout the world, and many people turn to Buddhism for its teachings on mindfulness, compassion, and inner peace. The global impact of Buddhism. Buddhism's impact on the world has been profound. It has shaped cultures, influenced philosophies, and provided a path to inner peace and enlightenment for millions of people. Buddhism has helped transform societies by encouraging practices of non-violence, compassion, and wisdom. What is remarkable about the spread of Buddhism is that it did not require force or conquest to grow. It spread through the examples set by its practitioners, through their wisdom, compassion, and the peace they found in the teachings of the Buddha. Wherever Buddhism went, it was embraced by those seeking a path to spiritual awakening and inner peace. The Buddha's message of love, compassion, and awakening continues to resonate with people all over the world, transcending cultural boundaries. Today, there are millions of Buddhists around the world, and the teachings of the Buddha are more relevant than ever as people seek meaning and peace in a rapidly changing world. In the next chapter, Part 7, The Legacy of the Buddha, How His Teachings Continue to Inspire, we will explore the lasting impact of the Buddha's teachings and how they continue to inspire people today. Part 7. The Legacy of the Buddha, How His Teachings Continue to Inspire the According. The true power of the Buddha's teachings is not in the past but in how they transform lives today. The Buddha's life was marked by great compassion and wisdom, and his teachings have had an incredible impact on the world. But the real measure of his legacy is not just in the thousands of years since his passing, but in how his teachings continue to resonate with people all around the world today. The teachings of the Buddha are not ancient relics. They are living, breathing wisdom that can still transform lives, just as they did for the Buddha's first disciples. The Buddha's universal message. At the core of the Buddha's message is the understanding that suffering is a part of life, but it does not have to define us. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path offer a roadmap to end suffering, and the Buddha's teachings continue to be a guide to this day. His message of compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom has transcended cultural boundaries, giving hope to people of all backgrounds and faiths. Buddhism in the modern world. In the modern world, Buddhism continues to offer a relevant path to finding peace, balance, and inner harmony. With the rise of mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living, more people are turning to the Buddha's teachings to navigate the complexities of modern life. The simple yet profound practices the Buddha introduced, like meditation, loving kindness, and mindful living, are more applicable than ever as people seek solutions to the stress and challenges of modern life. Buddhism's influence on society. Buddhism has had a deep social impact on cultures worldwide. The values of compassion, nonviolence, and equality promoted by the Buddha are deeply ingrained in many cultures and societies today. Buddhism has played an integral role in shaping ethical frameworks and promoting peace efforts in places such as Tibet, Japan, Thailand, and Sri Lanka. The Buddha's influence on other spiritual traditions. The Buddha's influence extends beyond the borders of Buddhism itself. His teachings have influenced many spiritual traditions, including Hinduism, Christianity, Taoism, and Islam. The universal principles he taught, such as compassion, mindfulness, and the pursuit of truth, are shared by many spiritual practices, and his example continues to inspire those seeking deeper meaning in life. Buddhism's role in personal transformation. For many individuals, the Buddha's teachings offer a path to personal transformation. The practice of mindfulness allows individuals to be more present in their lives, while meditation helps quiet the mind and develop inner peace. The Buddha's teachings also encourage self-reflection and ethical living, which can lead to personal growth, emotional healing, and greater happiness. The Sangha, a community of awakening. One of the most significant aspects of the Buddha's legacy is the community of practitioners he created, the Sangha. The Sangha provides a space for like-minded individuals to come together, practice, and support each other on the path to awakening. In the modern world, Buddhist communities continue to thrive, offering a sense of belonging and spiritual support for people who wish to live more mindfully and compassionately. The Buddha's teachings in the future. The Buddha's teachings will continue to influence future generations. As more people seek meaning in a world that often feels uncertain, the Buddha's teachings offer a timeless guide to living with purpose, compassion, and wisdom. The Buddha's legacy will live on as long as people continue to seek enlightenment, peace, and harmony in their lives. The path of awakening. The Buddha's legacy is not just in his teachings or the Sangha he established. It's in the lives of all those who walk the path of awakening today. Each time we practice mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we are continuing the Buddha's work. The Buddha showed us that awakening is not something distant or unattainable. It is within reach for everyone, right here and now. The Buddha's legacy lives in each of us as we walk the path toward greater peace, wisdom, and compassion. In the next chapter, Part 8, The Buddha's Final Parinirvana and the Future of Buddhism, we will explore the Buddha's final moments and how his teachings continued to spread across the world after his passing. Let's dive into the Buddha's final teachings and reflect on how they continue to inspire us today. Part 8. The Buddha's Final Parinirvana and the Future of Buddhism. The Buddha's passing is not an end, but a new beginning for all beings seeking liberation. After a lifetime of teaching and guiding countless beings on the path to enlightenment, the Buddha's physical form began to age and his final moments approached. At the age of 80, the Buddha knew that his time in this world was coming to an end. He had already passed on his teachings and established the Sangha as a community that would carry on his work. The final journey. In his final days, the Buddha traveled to Kusinara, a small village in northern India, to rest. It was here that the Buddha would experience Parinirvana, the final passing beyond suffering and the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This was a natural and peaceful moment for him, a moment of total liberation when he entered nirvana, free from all worldly attachments. The last teachings before he passed away, the Buddha gathered his disciples to impart his final teachings. His words were simple yet profound. Be a light unto yourselves. Strive on with diligence. All things are impermanent. Work for your own liberation. In these last moments, the Buddha emphasized the importance of personal responsibility on the path to liberation. He reminded his disciples that the path to awakening is something they must each walk for themselves. The Buddha did not want anyone to rely solely on him, but to recognize that the truth and the Dharma were within each of them. The passing of the Buddha. When the Buddha entered Parinirvana, he left behind a legacy of teachings and a community of practitioners who were now entrusted with continuing the work he had started. The Sangha mourned his passing, but they knew that the Buddha's teachings were immortal, and they carried his message forward. His final words became a guiding light for the community. Everything is subject to decay. Strive for your own liberation with diligence. The impact of the Buddha's passing. The Buddha's passing did not signal the end of Buddhism. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of his teachings. The Sangha continued to grow, and the teachings of the Buddha spread across India and beyond. Buddhist councils were held to preserve the Buddha's teachings and ensure their authenticity for future generations. The spread of Buddhism. After the Buddha's passing. After the Buddha's passing, his teachings were carried by his disciples and later missionaries. The first Buddhist council, held shortly after the Buddha's death, helped to compile and preserve his teachings in the Tripitaka, the Buddhist scriptures. This council ensured that the Buddha's Dharma would be passed down through the ages. Buddhism spread beyond India, reaching places like Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, China, Tibet, and eventually the West. The Buddha's teachings transformed entire societies, encouraging the values of compassion, nonviolence, and wisdom. The future of Buddhism. As Buddhism spread across the world, it began to adapt to different cultures while maintaining its core teachings. Buddhist traditions emerged in different countries, each adding their unique perspective and practices, but all remaining rooted in the Buddha's original message of mindfulness, compassion, and the path to liberation. Today, Buddhism continues to grow, with millions of practitioners around the world. The Buddha's teachings are more relevant than ever, offering a path of peace, wisdom, and liberation for those seeking answers in today's complex world. The legacy of the Buddha continues to inspire countless individuals to walk the path of awakening, inner peace, and freedom from suffering. The Buddha's enduring legacy. Even after more than 2,500 years, the Buddha's teachings remain a beacon of hope and wisdom. His example of compassion, wisdom, and non-attachment continues to guide people from all walks of life. The Buddha's legacy is not limited to the past. It is a living tradition that continues to transform lives today. His teachings are a source of strength, peace, and clarity for those who seek meaning in an uncertain world. In the next part 9, the enduring wisdom of the Buddha's teachings. How to live the path, we will explore practical ways to apply the Buddha's teachings in daily life, making his wisdom as relevant today as it was when he first shared it. Part 9. The enduring wisdom of the Buddha's teachings. How to live the path. The Buddha's teachings are not just for monks. They are a guide for everyone seeking peace, wisdom, and freedom. The teachings of the Buddha are timeless. Though over 2,500 years have passed since his enlightenment, his wisdom remains deeply relevant to our lives today. In a world filled with stress, uncertainty, and conflict, the Buddha's teachings offer a way to live with peace, clarity, and wisdom. At the heart of the Buddha's teachings is the path to liberation, which is often referred to as the Noble Eightfold Path. But what does that path look like in practical terms? How can we apply the Buddha's teachings to our daily lives? The practical application of the Eightfold Path. 1. Right view. Understand the world as it truly is. We must see things as impermanent, interconnected, and not inherently satisfying. Understanding the nature of suffering and impermanence can help us let go of attachment and embrace a peaceful mindset. 2. Right intention. Cultivate an attitude of compassion and non-harming. Our intentions should always align with compassion, nonviolence, and loving kindness. This means letting go of greed, hatred, and delusion in favor of cultivating good intentions. 3. Right speech. Speak truthfully, kindly, and wisely. Our words have power, and using them in ways that promote peace and understanding is essential. Avoid harsh speech, gossip, and lies, and instead speak in ways that bring harmony. 4. Right action. Act with ethical integrity. This means acting in ways that do no harm to others, practice kindness, and help those in need. Right action leads to a mindful life where we live in harmony with others and ourselves. 5. Right livelihood. Live in a way that does not cause harm. Ensure that our work and profession do not exploit or harm others, but instead contribute positively to society. Whether we're a teacher, a doctor, or a business owner, we must seek ethical ways of earning a living. 6. Right effort. Strive to cultivate good mental habits. We must make a consistent effort to cultivate positive qualities like love, kindness, patience, and generosity. Right effort involves overcoming negative tendencies and developing a mindful and compassionate heart. 7. Right mindfulness. Practice awareness in every moment. Being present, paying attention to our thoughts, emotions, and actions in the present moment helps us stay connected to the now. Mindfulness allows us to observe our reactions, enabling us to live with greater clarity and understanding. 8. Right concentration. Focus the mind in meditation. By developing concentration through meditation, we can experience mental clarity and inner peace. Meditation is a powerful tool for calming the mind, allowing us to deepen our practice and develop wisdom. Living the path in everyday life. Living the Buddha's path is not just about sitting in meditation or studying his teachings. It's about applying these principles in everyday situations. It means practicing mindfulness in our interactions with others, being compassionate when dealing with challenges, and living our lives with a sense of purpose and integrity. The Buddha's teachings offer a guide for living wisely. They encourage us to accept life as it is, while striving to cultivate a sense of peace, joy, and equanimity. By embracing the Buddha's path, we can transform our suffering into wisdom and our fears into courage and strength. The Buddha's enduring influence. What makes the Buddha's teachings so enduring is that they address the fundamental truths of human existence. We all experience suffering. We can overcome suffering by changing our attitudes and actions. We can live with peace and happiness, even in a world filled with challenges. The Buddha showed us that true freedom comes from within. It comes from understanding ourselves and our relationship with the world around us. By walking the Noble Eightfold Path, we can experience a transformation that leads us to lasting peace. What we can learn from the Buddha's wisdom today. The Buddha's teachings are as relevant today as they were over 2,500 years ago. In a world filled with distractions and anxiety, the Buddha's path offers us a way to slow down, connect with ourselves, and find peace in the present moment. His message of compassion, wisdom, and mindfulness is more important than ever. By practicing his teachings, we can create a better world for ourselves and those around us. From here, let's move on to the conclusion, where we'll reflect on the lasting legacy of the Buddha's teachings and how they continue to inspire millions worldwide. Conclusion: embracing the path to wisdom and peace. As we reach the end of our journey through the life of the Buddha, we've witnessed the incredible transformation of Siddhartha Gautama into the Buddha, the Awakened One. We've seen how his teachings of the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path offer a way to overcome suffering and live a life of peace and wisdom. The Buddha's journey is not just about his life, it's about our lives too. His teachings are as relevant today as they were over 2,500 years ago. They show us that true peace doesn't come from external circumstances, but from within ourselves. It comes from practicing mindfulness, living with compassion, and seeking wisdom in every moment. Have you ever wondered how you can apply the Buddha's teachings in your own life? Are you ready to live with more awareness, more kindness, and more peace? The Buddha showed us that awakening is not just a distant goal, but something we can experience here and now through daily practice. I want to thank you for joining me on this journey through the Buddha's teachings. I hope you found his story inspiring and that the lessons of compassion, wisdom, and peace resonated with you. The Buddha's legacy continues to live in each of us as we walk our own paths toward awakening and freedom from suffering. What part of the Buddha's teachings inspired you the most? Is there a practice or principle you'd like to explore further? Feel free to share your thoughts, questions, or reflections in the comments below. Let's continue this journey together and support each other in walking the path of peace and wisdom. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to Son.Mindfulness. By subscribing, you become part of a community of people seeking growth, balance, and inner peace. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories and teachings on how to live mindfully in today's world. Thank you again for watching. I wish you health, happiness, and peace in all your endeavors. May you always walk the path of wisdom, finding joy in every moment. And may you be blessed with good fortune on your journey. Thank you.